Greetings, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's operator meeting. My name is Hannah Hickman, and I will be your host. First up, I believe, is either Chris or Jane with an announcement, and then we'll get to the Q&A.
Thank you, Hannah. Yes, I'm going to go ahead and go first. Good morning, everybody. So the first announcement I wanted to make is that for those who weren't aware, the Form 3 is now available. It was finally published last Friday. And we'll be talking about that some. And of course, if you have questions, now would be a good time to ask those. So the only thing I wanted to mention was that in addition to the Form 3, there was also some revisions to the deadlines for submitting the Form 3s. The first group, with those operators with more than 50 wells, operated as of April 30th, 2022. The deadline for submitting the Form 3 has been pushed to November 1st. For the second group, operators operating more than 10 but less than 50 wells, the deadline is now December 1st. And for the last group, those operators who operated less than 10 wells, or 10 or less wells as of April 30th, the deadline, I believe, is now February 1st of 2023. And that's all detailed in the NTO, which has been posted on our website. Links are on the homepage, and you should have also got, I believe, that information in an email that Hannah sent out. So that being said, the only other thing I wanted to cover was the as far as calculations for your option determination, there have been some slight modifications or clarifications in it, and I wanted to bring everyone's attention to where those are outlined. I'm going to share my screen right now, Hannah. Okay, so if you go to our website, the homepage, as we've mentioned previously, if you click on data and you go to the operator name, address, and financial assurance link, you can put in an operator name, and we'll, let's try just putting in a random one. So here's the company detail report page for an operator. Everyone's pages will look like this. From here, you will see some buttons for financial assurance information. The previous 12-month production data button is here. If you click on that, that's going to take you to a page which shows you the calculated values for the previous 12-month window. One thing I will highlight is we've mentioned several times that this previous 12-month window is a rolling window. It begins 15 months prior to the current month and extends through 4 months to the prior month. So in this case, currently right now, if you are drafting and submitting a Form 3, it would be from July of 2021 through June of 2022. There are two links here. One is the option to export all of the data that is used in generating this calculation. So you can look at things in a great level of detail and granularity. There also is a link to this determination diagram flowchart. This was revised recently, just like I said, to make some more clarifications. One of which I wanted to highlight is that previously we just had listed here that your plugged abandoned, dry and abandoned well bores were excluded. This has been expanded to include wells for which are being drilled or waiting on completion, or there's a suspended operation. So those are not considered as part of the calculation for an option determination. Additionally, for any injection wellbore statuses in the production report, those are only included if that particular injection well has been inactive for 12 or more months. So if it's less than 12 months, those are not included in the calculation. The other clarification is that originally we had said that for calculating the average daily per well production over the previous 12 months in step 11 here, that it was divided by 12 months, so an entire year. Well, that actually was exactly correct, because in cases for which an operator has not submitted at least one qualified production report, that might be a situation where if there's been a transfer and an operator's only been operating well, say the last 3 or 4 months of the 12-month window, then the number of months that you're going to be dividing by will be reduced from 12. So that wasn't exactly correct in saying that it was always 12, and it's actually going to be dependent if there's any months for which there aren't any qualified Form 7 production reports. So in any case, you can take a look at this, and if you have questions, I'm happy to answer or go over how the production calculation is done. So that is all I have, Hannah, and I guess I'll pass it off to Jane if she's ready, and she can provide some clarity and answer some questions.
Sorry,
Yes,
if I might just,
next.
sorry, thanks, Jane. Sorry, Hannah, sorry, Chris. Good morning, everybody. I'm Sabrina Trask, the Planning and Permitting Manager. I have just a super quick, simple request that in an OGDP application, I guess really any form that has attachments on it, if you are providing staff with an updated attachment or a plan, an updated plan, please put the revised date on the first page of that attachment or plan. We've recently received a pretty big slug of replacement attachments, and it's a little bit hard for us to keep track of them when they all look the same. And we don't know what is changed in the middle. So just a quick request, please provide a revision date on the first page when you're asking us to swap out an attachment or a plan. That's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Sabrina. And Jane, did you have anything?
Yes, I have a couple things. Thanks, Hannah. Good morning, everybody. So the Form 3 is out there. Here we go. A couple things. There's an announcement on the homepage that to inform everyone that we made updates to your forms in draft yesterday. And that will, if you have had a form in draft and you were working on it Friday or yesterday or over the weekend, if you look at it today, you'll see that your plan option selection will have been cleared out, and the data on the plan information in the plan information section, if you put any new data in there, that will also be cleared out. And this was a necessary update having to do with the correct way to determine your options. So we apologize that it impacted work that you've done. Hopefully it wasn't very much work. And anyway, you'll notice that today. And, you know, if you have a question about it, just send me an email. The other thing is in the state, there are Class 2 disposal wells, and the commission has jurisdiction over those wells. And so they're included in all the financial assurance. But there are also Class 1 disposal wells that the commission has no jurisdiction over. They are administered completely by the EPA, but they're still in our data. They have API numbers, they have forms, it's all in there. So because we have no jurisdiction over them, they are not subject to financial assurance, they're not subject to our financial assurance, and they're not subject to any of the designations, nothing. None of this applies to them. So we used to keep track of them by just inserting the letters EPA in the well names, but that is not going to be sufficient for the automation that we're implementing with the new financial assurance rules. So we created a new well classification, and it's simply Class 1, and that will be used to exclude those wells from any of the requirements for financial assurance. So I think that's all I was going to mention. Maybe I forgot something. Here, let me check my list. I thought there was a third thing and now I can't think of it. Oh, the third thing is that Hannah has a bunch of questions that she received in emails and we're going to tackle those.
Alrighty, just give me a sec to queue it up. The question number 1 is, how do I see and fix 704 attributes for wells? For example, if some of our wells have lease or other surface use agreements, how does that get captured so that it doesn't mess up the financial assurance calculations?
Thanks, Hannah. Well, like everything in the automation of the Form 3, we're using everything that currently exists in the database. So if you have a well that has an individual surface owner protection bond, that will be included in the Rule 704 section of the form. If you have a blanket surface owner protection bond, that will be reflected in the Rule 704 section under the other financial assurance. You shouldn't need to do anything unless our data does not reflect your current situation with regard to surface owner protection bonds. So they'll be reflected. So the new rules increased the amounts for surface owner protection bonds in Rule 704. So the new amounts will be listed for, if you have existing ones, the new amounts will be listed in your Form 3. So hopefully that answers that question.
Great, thank you, Jane. The next question is, if we want to submit SWFA for some wells to remove a blanket, what's the best way to do that? Is it still the plan to provide? Oh, I think that's a new question, sorry.
Well, the Form 3 will identify the wells that require single well financial assurance, which is SWFA. And it'll calculate what that amount is. You have to remember that the Form 3 is not considering your existing financial assurance. That consideration will happen with the Form 3A. The Form 3 is simply establishing what the new rules require for all of your wells and facilities and everything. It does not consider what you have as existing. So if the new rules say a well requires single well financial assurance, it's in that section of the form that is calculated, and it does not look at the fact that you might currently have a $100,000 blanket plugging bond. There's no reconciliation between existing and new requirements within the Form 3. That will all happen in the Form 3A.
Great, Jane. And a follow-up to that question was, is it still the plan to provide a Form 3A, which I think you said it is? And what is the timing of the 3A?
Later.
Okay. And the next question is, if we are owed money back after replacing a blanket with several SWFAs bonds, how long should we plan on it taking before the blanket is released?
You know, I just cannot answer that question right now. That will all be handled with the submittal of your Form 3A, but this is a whole new process, so I wouldn't dare say.
Great, thanks, Jane. The next question is, it was my understanding that if we are under option 3, but we decide to produce third-party estimates showing a different value for plugging and reclamation, thus SWFA, that we have to go to hearing to get that approved. Is that correct? I had someone tell me that they thought we just had to provide estimates and then it would be approved via our Form 3. or
Right.
not.
Right. No, that aspect of options 3 and 4 do not require, well, all of the options have single well financial assurance, and the rules say that an operator can provide their demonstrated costs to use for the plugging cost and then the location reclamation, and that those will be used if they're provided, and if you choose to use them, then that's what the Form 3 will calculate for your single well financial assurance. That does not require a hearing. It's the part of options 3 and 4. The rules prescribe the timing for making annual contributions to reach your required amount of financial assurance for options 3 and 4. If you want to propose a different timeline than what the rules prescribe, that is what goes to a hearing. So that is an option, an aspect of options 3 and 4 that require commission approval, and that's to not use the timeline that the rules prescribed, but you're proposing a different timeline, and there's a place in the form to do that, in the Form 3. But yeah, using the operator's demonstrated cost, that does not add a requirement for a hearing. You do have to provide the supporting evidence for that, and that will be considered in the review of your Form 3, your plan.
And just to add to Jane's comment, that it doesn't matter if it's the operator or third party who's providing those estimated costs, or if it's us. In both cases, it's still a case that you don't have to go to hearing for that. It just will be reviewed by staff.
Great, thank you. The next question is, if using an option where only 5% of the total FA amount is due, if we have an existing 100,000 plugging bond, will that be subtracted from what we owe the first year or from the total amount? And then they gave an example. Total FA owed is 3 million. First year at 5% due is 150K. Would we subtract the existing $100,000 bond from the 3 million or from the 150K?
Chris, I know we talked about that. Of course, this is all going to be worked out with the Form 3. And we had a discussion about how that gets paid. And I honestly don't remember. I think those are some scenarios we're going to have to work through as we develop the Form 3A workflows.
Yeah, Jane, I would say if we can get back to and provide an answer to that question here in a bit, because yeah, I think there was some discussion about that for sure.
Well, not in a bit, in a while.
Okay,
in a while is longer than a bit. But that's something that will be addressed in the Form 3A.
Mm-hmm.
And just so, but on that same topic of, and I'll just repeat it, everyone has some amount of existing financial assurance. The Form 3 just does not consider that at all. At the very end of the Form 3, it has a total amount of the new rule requirements for your financial assurance. And you are aware of what you currently have in place, what you want to leave in place. That will all be reconciled with the 3A. What is being approved with a Form 3, whether it's the director's approval or the commission approval, is just that total overall required amount for your financial assurance. We're not reconciling existing now.
Great, thank you, Jane. Thank you, Chris. Next question is, does the Form 1B need to be approved before Form 3 can be completed? Form 1B submitted in July and is still in process status. In process status.
So to answer that question, it's no. The Form 1B is completely separate from the Form 3. There's no relationship between the two. The 1B is for payment of the mitigation fee and providing your general liability insurance coverage information. So there's no connection, and they are filed independently of each other.
Great, thank you, Chris. The next question is, who is the best person to reach out to on a variance on Bradenhead annual testing? And someone already answered that question as Diana Byrne, engineering manager. So reach out to Diana Byrne for variances on Bradenhead annual testing. Next question. I think this is it, yeah. How do we address discrepancies between Form 3 data and Kojis data, i.e. different number of produced water transfer systems?
You send me an email with lots of details and we'll sort it out.
Okay, thank you, Jane. And the next question is, if we file a Form 6A, do we need to have it approved before filing the Form 3? And how long will it take to approve the 6A OOS wells?
The Form 6A designation of out of service does not have a staff review. As soon as it's filed, it's approved and it updates the database. So you would be able to create your Form 3 the next day and reflect those out of service wells.
So yeah, I was going to add that it's probably a 24-hour overnight pause. It should be instantaneous, but because of the way our database updates, it will take some time for it to update.
Yeah, the overnight update would grab it.
All righty, let's see, the next one is, the year one contribution is 150,000. With 100,000 already posted, it seems that 50,000 is owed for year one and 150,000 every year thereafter. I think that was maybe in response to this question up here where they gave the example. Yeah. So I guess we'll just skip that one. The next question is, oh, this one's kind of long. Let me extend my view. Okay. When we started our Form 3, we are seeing wells on the inactive list that we have already submitted on our Form 6A for OOS. Is it possible for you to revise your software so wells we've submitted on the Form 6A do not show up on the inactive well list?
I'm not going to answer that one on the fly. Please send me an email with lots of details, like wells and API numbers, and we'll take a look at it. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Jane, and thank you for the question. The next question is, for operators who have pending Form 9s, will revised Form 3 be required after approval of the Form 9 to add the wells and facilities?
Yeah, the rules, well, we don't have the Form 9 revised yet. There's going to be a gray area with Form 9s and transfers. But I would say, yes, you're going to need to do that once the transfer is approved. That changes your circumstances, and the rules say that an operator would file a revised Form 3, which doesn't exist yet, anytime they have a change of circumstance that impacts their financial assurance requirements. So that's how that will handle. Once we get the Form 9 revised and pin down that workflow, we'll have a whole discussion about that. But yes, plan to do that.
Thank you, Jane. The next question is, Form 3 has come out. Is this still a draft or is it good to start on? Also, you keep saying Form 3A. Are we accepting a final Form 3A? What's the difference?
The Form 3 is real. It's live. Go for it. I mean,
Good.
obviously, we're tweaking it as people raise questions that our testing didn't catch. And we'll always let you know when we've made an adjustment. So watch the homepage for an announcement that says we updated the forms. The Form 3A is, so right now we have two Form 3s. We have the old Form 3, which is called the performance bond that has existed since 1999. And we have the new Form 3, which is the financial assurance plan, which we're all working so hard on. The Form 3A will essentially replace the old Form 3. And it will be the form that you use to provide your financial assurance. And it will be automated to some degree. And the Form 3, once it's approved, it will update the database with all of your financial assurance requirements. And when you then prepare a Form 3A, it will feed that data in the database. The Form 3A will pull the data from your Form 3 from the database. And that will connect what you're filing in terms of actual financial assurance with what your plan requires. Does that answer the question?
If it doesn't, you can just ask some clarifying questions in the chat, please. The next question is, let's say we need to post $78,000 for our 5% contribution. Is that paid with cash or is there a bond or another option to pay this?
It's however you want to provide your financial assurance.
Great, thank you. That seems to have concluded the questions, but we'll give folks just a few more minutes to type in questions if they have any. Oh, here's one. Is it accurate that an option 3 operator will be required to include any OOS well in the FA calculation? The real example in this case is a well with an approved Form 6 NOI. The well will be plugged, but not until after the Form 3 has been submitted. Also, does that operator still need to submit a Form 6A for the well in this case?
Well, in options 3 and 4 and 5, out of service wells still require financial assurance. So you can send in a Form 6A if you like, but until that well is either reported plugged with a Form 6 subsequent that you file after you've plugged it, or it's going to require financial assurance for an option 3 operator.
Thanks, Jane. And while we're waiting for additional questions to come in, I've put up the extended calendar for the next meetings up until next June. Oh, although I put all the dates wrong, so I'll fix that. Sorry about that. But we're going to be doing the weekly meetings through October or through the beginning of November, just to make sure that everybody has a good chance to ask questions. And then if questions aren't answered throughout the week, we can bring those to this meeting to answer those. Fix that real quick. Change to the new year is always hard for me. I'm not seeing any more questions. If you are registered as the designated agent, I guess this is a light announcement. If you're registered as the designated agent through whatever form is that you have to fill out to make that happen, that doesn't get you on our contact email list, the one where we send out invites and other notices to operators. So if you do need to get on that list, you can email me and I will put you on the list, and then we're working on outreach to let the folks know that they can be here. Oh yes, thank you. The form 1A is for the designated agents. So just because you filled out the Form A doesn't mean that you'll get the email blasts from us about operator meetings. So you can send me an email here at this email address and I will put you on that list. And then we have one more question. So if we get our Form 3 done and submitted, then you make changes to the form. How is that going to work?
Good question. Hopefully, we won't need to make any more changes
Yeah.
to the form.
If we do, we would provide,
Well, yeah,
we will communicate with anyone where their change is necessary after a Form 3 is done and submitted. But as Jane said, hopefully that will not happen.
so just a reminder, as you are working on your Form 3s and completing them, if you have questions, please email me. If you have a problem, same thing, question, problem, concern, please send me an email. Please include the document number of your form in the system. And if it's something that taking a screenshot shows what the problem is, please include one of those. And like with all of our forms, you know, some of the problems we send it to our developers and then they work on it and then we get back to you. So. Thanks, Hannah.
Sure thing. And I also dropped it in the chat, but I'm not sure how many people really mess with the chat, so I also put it up there. Can't get my name to be not blue again, so guess I can unlink it. Yeah, that'll do it. There we go. All right, well, I think this is the wrap up. So if you need to be added to the operator meeting list, you can email me at that email. And then if you have questions or concerns about any of these topics, you can email Jane. And then I will send out another invite on Thursday or Friday for the operator meeting next Tuesday. And that will include hopefully the correct dates with 2023 and the new year dates. Otherwise, thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate it and hope you have a great day. Bye.
Thanks, Hannah.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.